Hi, my name is Mark Bernot. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about what it was like growing up during the Great Depression. And this is more based on personal experience, not aggregate numbers, not per capita GDP or, average income, medium income, the mode of the income, or comparable CPIs. You can't do that because it's apples and oranges. I can tell you on personal experience because both my parents grew up during the Great Depression. Their parents were immigrants who did not speak English. My parents' second language was English in that regard. And there are some pros and cons of growing up in the Great Depression. The pros were, when I Google what the housing value of the brownstone that they grew up in, it's, just shy of $1 million today. And then they were able to acquire a second house, and they were working just basic jobs. So there's an argument, for example, my dad's family, they had 6 kids in there. Living in a brownstone, which is, again, just shy in, if you take the Z estimate today, of, $1 million, it's not something I probably could afford. And it's Center City, Philadelphia, right on the Schuylkill River and right on the park and by the museums. And you could say, well, times are different. They are different, but it's the same house, the same brownstone. If anything, it was newer. And they got a second one that they used for rental income, I believe. So that's one thing. The second thing is, people would say, oh, it's so bad. And they went to Catholic school, but I looked up St. Hedwig's Catholic School. It's like about $8,000 a year, which is not overly expensive, but it's kind of expensive today. And, if it's today's values. So if they were going to like private school, St. Hedwig's, $8,000 a year, living in a brownstone, and then the food. The food, you don't have the packaged food and all this like plastic wrap. But everything virtually was organic. And the milk was whole organic. I think it was raw milk. They made their own vino with grapes. And the bread was fresh every day. And so was the meat. So, to do that type of lifestyle, you have to shop at like Whole Foods or the top delis, and pay a premium. And their clothes, again, there was all wool and cotton and basically organic. So, to dress in these organic clothes, eat organic food, live in a brownstone in the center of the city and go to private school, that's not the experience I would expect during the Great Depression. Although my parents reminisce and say it was so bad back then, and it was. I'll give you the cons. The cons were you don't have any choices. You don't have the option. Today, you don't have a safety net. You lose your job, you could lose your house. Right? How are you going to feed your kids? You don't have, people are flipping jobs every 18 months. Everything's an opportunity. Everybody's going everywhere, traveling everywhere, taking photos of themselves in all parts of the country. No. That time, you just keep your head down. And things were pretty strict back then. People had kind of old-fashioned ideas of, discipline and life and serious. Everybody was just super serious, I think. So that's... It was like a very different feel. And everybody was stressed because if you lose your job during the Great Depression, you got 20+% unemployment, you're out of luck, especially if you don't speak English. But somehow it worked out and everybody, made it. Another thing, the medicine, I don't know if it was that great or not great. I do know, my father, he broke his leg, he was in the hospital, somehow they paid it. And he was bit by a dog, and somehow they got the rabies shot. He took the trolley every day. So yes, things are bad during the Great Depression if you did not have a job. But if you had a job, whatever job, there's an argument to be said that you were living an okay life. If, immigrants who could not speak English were living in a brownstone in the center city and their kids were going to private school. I don't have all the information because I never probed it deeply, but based on the information I could gather, that was the picture. And they went to the movie house and, it seems like everything was like pretty safe in the inner city. And it was a very sweet life, except they didn't have a lot of disposable income. But the other component of that is if you grow up poor, then everything else is better. You don't want to grow up like rich or with a lot of things. Even like today, a lot of the kids are just bored because they have things and then there's nowhere to go up. Back then, times were exciting. New inventions coming out, and I'm talking major inventions. It's like the automobile was getting popularized, and TV sets, like major inventions where like people started to travel and take planes. And by the time my father, he was working, I mean, he was, just started off somewhere, but he moved up very rapidly during this great economic expansion in America. He took a helicopter ride and I think had lunch with Walt Disney. Just amazing times. The world was a lot smaller then. So was it bad during the Great Depression? I guess I don't like this answer, but it depends. It depends where you lived. If you lived in the city and your parents had a job, it was good. If you didn't and you were living in Appalachia or somewhere, but even, look at the Waltons and, that's a romanticized version. People didn't live like that, but somehow people survived. The other component, last component, is we all see black and white photos of the Great Depression. So it all makes us look like, wow, it was really hard. But what if you colorize those photos and you have this very vivid color, then the world looks kind of pretty and sweet. People dressed well. They took trolleys. People were respectful. So yes, the Great Depression, I'm an economic historian. I do a lot of my work on the Great Depression and the causes of the Great Depression and the monetary causes of the Great Depression. And I acknowledge it wasn't great in terms of life. But it wasn't that bad either. My name is Mark Biernot, and I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day.